Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton with Big C. This is Charlton and Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. I want to say bienvenidos to all of our listeners in Latin America, also across the pond in London, England, as well as Paris, France. Of course, you good old boys from Africa, you know we love the Big C tribe. We love you in Canada, but Big C, there's no one we love more than you good old boys down south in the land of the free and the home of the brave on the beautiful March 27th, 2018. Big C, how's it going for you beautiful good old boys down south?
Charlton, we're just living a Southern hospitality way. We're a month away from the NFL draft, so we just put the beer on ice, to get it ready for that event.
Yeah.
And, we're going to be relaxed when that time rolls around.
Well, I feel like I've had an education today on the beautiful March the 27th. I always thought that beer was drank best when it was warm, but that's my California. I'm thinking of wine, Big C, so maybe I'm mixing my liquors together. I know in California we drink our wine red, and you good old boys down south, you like your moonshine cold, and there's nothing wrong with that. A lot of going on in the world of sports and entertainment and business, of course. I just got to say, I appreciate so much in the sports universe. So many people still are talking about, is this thing about the NFL? What are they going to do about these black men asking for some type of attention being paid to injustice in the United States of America? And a lot of people still don't feel we have an issue with injustice, so they still try to say it's disrespectful to not stand for the flag. We know that's not the case at all, Big C. So no matter what people think, I just hope that we keep having dialogue. We have March Madness decided the Final Four for the men's and the women's bracket, and then the NBA power rankings. All that good old stuff is coming out. Big C, what's on the top of your mind in the sports world?
Well, Charlton, it's getting interesting. The Final Four on men's and women's side are coming up. There's still a lot of moves being made in the NFL. We're looking at the NBA. It's coming down to crunch time. Just a little over a dozen games left in the regular season. So people are jockeying for those last couple of playoff positions, Charlton. And, we look at hockey. Hockey's moving close to the playoff time. So it's going to be real interesting here in the next couple of months. But you're going to have a lot of basketball playoffs. You're going to have hockey playoffs. You're going to have the NFL draft.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Major League Baseball will be starting.
Well, we love that, but Big C, I wouldn't be keeping it real if I didn't bring some of the things. I told you I love my brethren over at CNN down there in Atlanta, Georgia. I think they call Georgia, is it the Peach State or something of that nature?
Yeah, the Peach State.
The Peach State, and I want some peach cobbler from Georgia one of these days. But I know they did this story, and they were talking about our, POTUS, who used to own a team in pro football, the USFL, the New Jersey Generals, and all the things that are going on in the world of politics and in sports. Well, they had this round table of some women down in the great state of Texas, and they were asking these women, I guess they were probably at least 50, just assuming by the way they looked, and they were asking them what they thought about POTUS and all this stuff coming out. Well, some of these women, I just got to point it out for numbers' sake, Big C, there were about 12 women, 11 Caucasian, and 1 African-American, just to show equal time, and they were all saying that they thought that Trump was ordained by God. Big C, can you explain that, what's going on in the South?
I guess it comes down to that God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
Were these the same women that were, going after the guy in Alabama?
Yeah.
That was running for the Senate?
Yeah.
These are the same backing him.
Yeah, Roy Moore, they were backing him too.
When Roy Moore had all these women saying he's a man of God and he would never do anything like that.
Yeah.
What's ironic about the president, Charlton? We've had 2 women this last week speak out on television.
Yeah.
Network-wide television, Charlton, on CNN and 60 Minutes.
Yep.
And ironically, he did not come back and bash them in any kind of way.
No.
Okay? This is the first time that someone has gone after him on television, not attacking, go after him.
Yeah.
And he has no response to it.
Yep.
And, you have to look at it from this perspective, is that they had to say something that was true.
Yeah.
Because he can't respond to it.
Yeah.
You know, he's had a few of his spokespersons and attorneys make comments to it. But this is the first time. I mean, he's going after people in the media.
Yeah.
He's gone after athletes.
Yep.
He's gone after other politicians when they made comments.
Yep.
But this is the first time that somebody has said something negative about him on television since his presidency, and he has now responded with a tweet.
Yeah.
And I wonder if he can't figure out the right lie to put together.
Yeah.
That's all I can come up with. It's like, okay, however I try to spin this against these two females, it comes out negative either way against him.
Yep. Yeah.
And so there's nothing that he can attack these women on. And I think that's what we've talked about a lot. You know, the week before he sent his wife out to talk about anti-bullying.
Yeah.
And this would have been a perfect segue into bullying if he had commented on anything either one of these two women had said, Charlton.
Yeah, I think
that it would have accounted bullying and threatening to make a comment against him.
Yep, that is so true, Big C. I do want to say this segment is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard of the world. And when you go by and test drive yours, tell them Charlton and Big C sent you. You can drive a car or you can drive a Cadillac. And I got to bring it up because I love what's going on in our world of dialogue. And I have so many young, even white kids, okay, the ones that always they came out of the womb given every opportunity that the land of the free in the home of a brave offers everybody. When white kids were born, they don't have to worry about their parents teaching them about Jim Crow, their parents teaching them how to be safe when they get pulled over by law enforcement. They don't have to worry about their parents teaching them about how they were affected, their ancestry were affected by colored drinking fountains and water, colored water fountains and restrooms and restaurants, etc., and whether they could rid a hotel or not because of their skin color. They never have to have any stories of their grandparents telling them that they were slaves or that they were lynched or beaten. None of that stuff. Now, there are some people that say, well, why we got to talk about that because they don't like history? But I got to say this. When I heard, and I got to bring up the color because that's what I saw on TV. Maybe they have more than one panel. But when about 12 women get together, one African American and about 12 Caucasians they were just telling the women that are coming forward saying I've been assaulted that they're lying. These women have daughters, Big C, and I'm assuming they all came from a mother. But if the women don't even ask for equal time, what message are they sending to their own daughters? Are they saying just shut up and let this happen? Does that make any sense, Big C?
Well, Charlton, we grew up in a time when that was acceptable. You think about how boisterous women have become in the past few years and how powerful they've become.
Yeah.
Well, when you speak about these women being in excess of 50 years of age, you got to look at the time frame that they were brought up in the 70s and the 60s.
Yeah.
Where you were quiet. You accepted what was put forth to you in society and even in your household.
Yeah.
You accepted. You were raised by a mother and grandparents told you that the man ran the house and you will always be his subordinate.
Yeah.
And so this was how these women were speaking. I couldn't say that their daughters would have that same outlook now in the new millennium that we have now, because when you look at the women who have come forth now because they've been empowered, they don't live in fear.
No.
And which is great for society. That women have been abused verbally, physically for decades.
Yep.
And all races of women, Charlton.
Yeah.
There's still cultures in the world where women are not even allowed to show their face or drive a car.
Yeah.
They have no rights still.
Yeah.
So the advancement of women in America has gone a long way. But those women that you sit up and spoke about seeing on a television show, I mean, it's a part of ignorance also. And I'm not trying to berate a female.
No.
I'm just saying that this is part of ignorance.
Yeah.
Is that you will sit there and accept that wholeheartedly and say that this man is ordained by God.
Yeah.
and
it was crazy.
I don't know what church they're going through. Maybe it's the Church of Lucifer or whatever.
I have no idea.
But, to sit there and to, when they say that athletes, especially football players, are against the flag and against the military.
Yeah.
These are women that are against the Bible.
Yeah.
When you make a statement like that, saying that this man is ordained by God, but yet he has no empathy towards lesser Americans. I mean, if you look at his cabinet, people that he appointed, people that were multimillionaires and billionaires, those people had no sensibility about what societal's woes were.
No.
Or even an athlete's woes, because you weren't in their financial bracket.
Well,
and so how could you care about that young couple that's struggling and trying to make the mortgage and take care of the kids and buy some insurance for them? And you said, oh, we'll give you $1,000. These people, $1,000 to them that are in the cabinet, the president's cabinet, means nothing. It's like the average person spending $1.
Yeah.
Maybe a quarter.
Yeah.
That's what $1,000 is to them. They don't think about it.
Yeah.
When they pull out a platinum or black credit card, they don't worry about what the balance is.
Well,
when they walk into a store and see something they want, they don't ask what the price tag is.
Yeah.
They ask Ben Carson, our Secretary of Urban Housing, when he and his wife spent $31,000 on a dining room set on the government's money. Now think about that.
Yeah.
Here's the government saying in this tax break, the average American is going to get $1,000.
Yeah.
Okay. Ben Carson and his wife at their Washington D.C. home are eating off a $31,000 dining room table.
Wow.
$31,000. You think about that. So when you say that you're concerned about America, in the White House we had Tom Price, who was flying around first class.
Yep.
And when he wasn't flying first class, he was using government jets to go on a little trip that would cost $25,000 to fly 700 miles or 400 miles.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
so when you say that you're concerned about the American citizen, and then these people had to be in a scripted situation to say that this man is ordained and he doesn't care. Jesus cared.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yep.
God cared.
Well,
they took care of the masses.
Yeah.
They didn't worry about themselves. It was more about the masses. We haven't seen that yet.
No, and I want to bring it up just for this point because, and again, I wasn't there, so I don't know. But I know about juries and how, for the most part, when they have a jury, if an African-American person is accused, they want to get an all-white jury because they know that state of mind still exists to say, oh, we're going to go with whatever the prosecution says. Well, in Texas, Cornelius Bennett, who's an African-American football player and, was playing for the Seattle Seahawks at the time before going to his new team. Now, he has had charges brought up against him. This has all happened in the past couple of days.
Michael Bennett.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michael Bennett. Thank you, beg your pardon. Michael Bennett. And this is for an incident that happened at the Super Bowl a couple years ago. Now, he was also a part of that investigation down in Las Vegas after the Mayweather and McGregor fight. Now, these same people, and I'm asking because the jury pool, okay, I brought it up specifically for a reason. We've seen things that Donald Trump has done and said. We've heard it with our own eyes. Or do you hear with your eyes or do you see with your eyes, Big Z? When I pick it up Musha, I can hear with my eyes from what I understand. But I saw it with my own eyes and I heard it with my own ears. Now, these women, and I'm not being pejorative, I'm just saying this is what I saw on the CNN network. These are the same people that they pull in jury pools when they put a black man on the stand and they're going to say, these are the juries of your peers. And I'm being very serious about it. Because they've seen something that happened with a Caucasian man that the whole world knows happened, and they're saying he didn't do it. And this is even against white women, Big C. Now imagine if that were President Barack Obama accused of grabbing white women by the vagina and 12 or 13 assault cases coming at him, and then sleeping with porn stars and saying they're lying, but they got something on audio tape that's about to come out too. So how does Michael Bennett fare when they have a jury of his peers, so they're going to say, are these same women that they find to say that Trump does nothing wrong, but they're going to put him in front of a jury of his peers, and it's going to be them, Big C. And I think he should fight as much as he can to have a diverse jury, if that makes any sense. Coming up, your thoughts?
Well, I look at the situation with Bennett, Charlton, in Vegas. There was video evidence of what occurred in Vegas as far as the handling by the police officers, okay? Mm-hmm. We all saw that. It was on every sports and news show. Now, the situation with him, alleged situation with him at the Super Bowl, where he was supposed to assault a 66-year-old handicapped person, and it was being witnessed by a police officer.
Yep.
But yet this police officer did not cite him or arrest him at the time.
Nope.
But that's what leaves me perplexed in this whole thing. And you said a grand jury has indicted him based on this police officer's statement.
Yep.
Now, we've seen in the news many times lately where police officers, especially when a black person's involved, they just shoot you to death.
It just happened in Sacramento.
We saw it in Sacramento. There was a tape release yesterday from down in New Orleans where police officers held this black man down on the ground and shot him to death in front of a convenience store. Not only that, today, Jonathan, in the South also, there was down in Houston, there was another black man shot to death.
Yeah.
Now, this man, a couple of years ago, and it's noted that he has psychological problems.
Yeah.
Because his ex-wife had drowned their two children in a bathtub and committed suicide.
Wow.
And so he's never recovered mentally from that. And he was in an intersection today with his pants down around his ankle, hanging on cars. The police walked up and shot him to death. They feared for their lives.
Wow.
Because he came after them. And I want to ask anybody who's listening to our program, take your pants and put them on your ankles. Just pull them down. See how fast you can run. Okay, this was their justification for killing this man.
Yeah.
Is that they felt for fear of their lives and that he was charging them. Now put your pants on your ankles and see how fast you can run. See how fast you can cover 20 feet.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because the length of a taser is 20 feet.
Yeah.
So you're telling me with two law enforcement officers, both carrying tasers, that they couldn't tase this man, that it was more convenient to kill him. And that's the problem that we keep having over and over, is that police officers refuse to tase black people. The young man that they killed 2 years ago in New Orleans outside the convenience store.
Yeah.
They held him down. One of the police officers took his gun and put him in his chest and fired a couple of rounds.
Yeah.
To his chest. Even though he had his taser, all they had to do is take his taser, put it on him and tase him.
Yeah.
Instead of tasing him, they said, and in the excuse, they said that they felt that he was going for a gun.
Wow.
So instead of tasing, let me put my gun in his chest while we're holding him down here on the ground and execute him. Because that's all they did. They executed the young man.
Now,
he was a father of two.
Yeah.
But they executed him. And the justification was they had him on the ground and they felt that he was going for a gun.
Yeah. Now, see, I love the knowledge you have. And, I mean, you're down south. I'm out here on the West Coast. And San Francisco is a very diverse city. Very progressive. You could walk to San Francisco on Fisherman's Wharf, just being down here today and seeing how beautiful it is, getting ready for the home opening of Major League Baseball, and just being in the Bay Area, seeing everywhere you look, you see people who may look a little bit different by every fifth or sixth person, Big C. So it's nothing new when someone's in the Bay Area and they see someone with a different skin complexion. And I would say that it's perhaps even embraced. And so we've seen a lot of that. But I got to bring this thing up with Texas because it hit home. And a lot of athletes, for Black Americans I hear people say, some of my white brethren, well, now's not the time to talk about anything other than the sports. If you're a person of color and you got a brain, even a small brain, you got to recognize that we've always been told to shut up. And now's not the time. You know, Frederick Douglass was told now's not the time when he was helping Abraham Lincoln craft the Emancipation Proclamation. Now's not the time. You know, we don't want to upset people. But I know people are mesmerized by the Final Four. They're mesmerized by who's going to get into the playoffs at what seed. You know, who's going to get drafted first into the NFL. But there's something that just happened today that ties into how we open the show. With these women down in Texas, majority, all of them white except for one black lady, with the preponderance of evidence of what a Caucasian man has done, whether it's Trump or not, a lot of it's just known. And I'm sure that the African-American woman never read about the Central Park Five, which is embarrassing, especially for her parents, if they're still around. But I look at a story today, Big C, from the Seattle Seahawks, and again, we are anti-violence against women, don't tolerate it, don't accept it, etc. That does not mean that you don't have the presumption of innocence. So, Travis Boykin was released today, Tavon Boykin released today because of an accusation of domestic abuse. Now, I don't know if it happened or not, but he lost his job over an accusation. We have a man in the White House that we have his stuff on tape, and then you still find a jury of his peers who say they don't believe what they heard with their own ears. Big C, that make any sense?
Well, you know, it's amazing how quickly a Caucasian woman becomes uncredible when it's a white man that she's accusing.
You can Google it.
And this is the profoundness of society. If a white woman accuses a black man, he's going to be arrested, he's going to be fired, and all these other things.
Yep.
But here's multiple white women accusing a white man of these heinous acts. Have video, audio evidence,
yep,
text evidence, and they're saying that these women are uncredible.
Yeah.
And, you know, do everybody have that outlook against a woman who's had sexual assault committed to her? I mean, we saw it with a judge in San Jose a couple of years ago. You know, the young lady was uncredible when the Stanford swimmer raped her.
Yeah.
You know, she was uncredible. She put herself in that predicament. You know, the judge wanted to say. Then after that, Charlton, there was a judge up in Canada, your favorite company.
Oh, I love Canada. Great country.
You know, there was a 16-year-old girl that had been raped by a senior student, you know, they were at a house party.
Wow.
And the judge had the gall to say if she had kept her legs closed or crossed, she wouldn't have been raped.
Wow.
Even though she was intoxicated. And, you know, whoever provided the alcohol at this incident, we should have been just as culpable as the young man.
Yeah.
But the young man wasn't convicted by the judge.
Wow.
You know, he let him off. And so when I see these women saying that another woman is uncredible, what if this happens to you or your daughter? Do you become uncredible at that point?
Wow.
If some man does this to your family member, are you uncredible or are they uncredible because they've been a victim of this type of violence? That's what I hate.
Yeah.
Is when women sit there and say that another woman is uncredible and she shouldn't be listened to.
Yeah.
Because of her employment or her social status, it makes her less of a human being. You know, this is what we face in society.
Yeah.
With athletes. When we look at black athletes and what they have to go through.
Yeah.
When we look at the black culture, what they have to go through. And I praise the young students now in the school system who are going out, marching, standing up to make a difference.
Yep.
But what you have to understand is this many African-American children have been killed in America every week.
Yep.
Every week, what we've seen in Stoneman Douglas.
Yep.
This many African-Americans get killed every week. Children, I'm not talking about adults, children. And there's never been an outcry on their behalf.
Wow.
I'm proud of the Stoneman Douglas children. I honestly am, Charlton.
Yeah.
But this outcry, we're not going to get a change in America on violence, period, until whites recognize what they're doing wrong.
And yeah.
They have to recognize it.
Yeah.
Before it becomes a social issue, whites have to acknowledge that they have been wrong.
Yeah.
In their treatment of others, in their treatment of women, in their treatment of African Americans. And it's just like today. The president wants to add into the next census what nationality, are you an American citizen? He wants to put that in the next census.
Wow.
So this is targeted after minorities.
And people
it's
are
not
asleep.
Targeted after Americans.
And Big C,
it's targeted after minorities.
I love that you brought that up because so many people are asleep. They want to know who's going to win the national championship, who's going to be the next person to cut down the nets at the Final Four, who's going to get drafted first, and who's going to win Major League Baseball World Series this year. But so many people don't understand that what happened with that pool that they had down in Texas, not naming Texas out, they just happened to be the ones where it happened. And this,
isn't that where Boykin was charged? Isn't that where Bennett's been charged?
Yeah, Bennett was charged in Texas. And we know that Texas has had a very strong arm of the law mentality, especially against people of color. And we know that, even with the code words. And so my plea is to the African-American brethren who have access to media. I know sometimes your kids are not more important than the paycheck. I know sometimes your kids being safe when they don't have the jersey that you play it in, that's not as important as that paycheck that they make it rain on you. And I know they're not as important as Rosa Parks thought that we as a society were important that did the right thing. So as people are saying should they stand or not stand for the national anthem, if you can't see what Colin Kaepernick's protest was, or just calling attention to this police brutality and this criminal justice system that has always been antithetical to African Americans. If you don't see that, then you're part of the problem. And I know there was a thing down in Sacramento back in the 20s where they were studying the Ku Klux Klan meetings. And a lot of those people were in law enforcement. They studied the license plates because they all wore sheets over their heads, Big C. I know a lot of dumb, ignorant people don't know that because they don't read.
Think about this, Charlton.
Yeah.
If America stands up for what Colin Kaepernick stood up for, then they're saying that all of what we've been seeing on TV is wrong instead of saying that there's an excuse for it.
Yep.
That these police feared for their lives, that they had no choice. You know, the one that comes to mind, the most disheartening one of all, Charlton, actually there's two of them.
Yeah.
2 years ago, there was a young man walking back to his car outside of Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
He was parked in the middle of the road. He turned and walked back towards his car, and he was shot to death. The officer said she feared for her life. She felt that he was going for a gun.
Wow.
Even though he was standing outside his car, she shot him several times.
Yeah.
Said that she feared for her life.
Yeah.
You know, and every time these incidents occur, Charlton, it's always the same scenario. I fear for my life. What there needs to be is some psychological training. The two most stressful jobs in America.
Yeah.
Think about this. We got school teachers is a very stressful job.
Yeah.
Being in law enforcement is a very stressful job. And you think about this. Now the administration want to arm school teachers.
Crazy.
But they don't want to give diversity training and psychological training to police officers.
Yeah.
Who really need it. I mean, it's a very stressful job.
Yeah.
But you need some diversity and psychological training. You know, at least have somebody in. We see it on the movies when they bring somebody in to talk someone out of a situation.
Yeah.
They have a negotiator.
Yeah.
But people are saying, well, everything happens in a split second. When I looked at the incident that happened 2 years ago in New Orleans,
yeah,
that wasn't a split second.
No.
You had time to put this man wrestling to the ground. You got his arms pinned. You got him on his back.
Yep.
You know, halfway up under a car. And you pull your gun out, and that's when they turn off the camera.
Wow.
You know, they shut down the camera at that point. Well, at least that's the part they shut down on television.
Yeah.
And then the young man today in an intersection that you shoot him to death with his pants down around his ankle because you said you feared for your life that he was charging you.
Wow.
And I question anybody. You know, I remember when my kids were young and they would run out of the bathroom with their pants around their ankle saying, "I'm done."
Yeah.
You know, it took forever for them to get to me. You know?
Yeah.
And they were kids.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, you think about being in a gunny sack race, and I think most people I know my age did that as a child.
Yeah, I did it too.
In some camp or in some church event.
Yeah.
You had a gunny sack race. How fast did you move in a gunny sack race? That's the same as having your pants down around your ankles.
Yeah.
How fast can you move?
Yep.
That the officer didn't have time to pull out their tasers and tase this man. That's 40,000 volts. He's going to the ground.
Yeah. Yep.
But they had time to pull out their 9mm.
Yeah.
And shoot him multiple times. So, you know, the insensitivity that law enforcement has towards minorities.
Yeah.
And I think the huge discrepancy, and people can always say, you know, there's a racist undertone in what you're saying. No, it's not.
Google it.
Tell me the last time you watched the news, your local or national news, and seen over a month span, even a week span, 1, 2, 3 white patrons shot by the police.
In the
white
back.
citizens shot by the police. We don't see that.
We don't see that. And that's why, for my sycophants, African-American brethren that have a microphone, I know you're afraid. You don't have the character that Rosa Parks had, because I hear so many of them on the radio going, well, you know what? Maybe the guy did something wrong. Maybe Rodney King did do something wrong. Maybe Emmett Till did do something wrong because they're just ignorant. But I don't like ignorant people, and you can Google the Kerner Commission. I love the things that Lyndon Baines Johnson had put in there.
What is the major medical crisis they're talking about in America now?
It's opioids.
Everyone's talking about opiates.
Yeah.
For the longest, when they killed a black man, they said, well, he was high on something.
Yeah.
He was high on PCP, or he was high on angel dust, or he was high on marijuana, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, opiates is a stronger narcotic, fentanyl and Oxycontin, as we've ever seen in America. It's killing people.
Yep.
But one of the things about this, and these people are on these drugs, we're not hearing any of them being shot.
No.
Now, they're on more stronger narcotics than any African American that has ever been shot.
Yep.
Because they're doing all the time. Well, he had traces of cocaine in his blood. He had traces of marijuana in his blood.
Yeah.
We're hearing this. And we know of the opioid epidemic in America. We know what opioids do to people.
Yeah.
But instead of shooting them, they take them to a hospital or a treatment center.
Get on treatment.
Blacks don't get that option. They take them to a mortuary.
I tell you, there's a lady that I know up here in the Bay Area. She does media, and she does a lot of filming of the San Francisco Giants and the Oakland A's and the Raiders and 49ers. And we were talking about some things that happen, and things that happen that don't always make the news. And as we go into the games, I remember it was Coach Brown 2 years ago, I think, driving to the Coliseum to coach.
Mike Brown.
Coach Brown when Steve Kerr was injured from the back surgery, and he was pulled over. Now, just recently, this other woman of color was telling me the same thing that happened to her just going to the sporting event. I know a lot of people just want to watch the game. They want to know the score. But we got to talk about it so we can stop it. So as she's driving, she gets this CHP that pulls behind her in her car, and there's other black people in the car with her, and they follow her for about a good 5 minutes. When they could have, she wasn't speeding. Ultimately, they didn't even pull her over. But the fact that she was in a car with other black Americans, and she's singled out by CHP. Now, of course, they have a right to do whatever they want to do, but she's done nothing wrong. And she was still treated as if she did, but there's plenty of cars filled with white Americans not being followed for, several minutes while they're running your license plate and all that jazz. I bring this back to Bennett, because down in Vegas, we saw him laying on the ground with an officer with his knee on his back, and I don't know what he had in his hand because it was dark, I couldn't see it. But they were running from when they thought they heard gunshots. They later resolved there were no gunshots. And now he's indicted down in Texas. But watching this pound of older Caucasian women saying they're ignorant or oblivious to what Trump has been accused of. They're going to try to get people like that on the jury to presume he's guilty. That's what they're going to try to do. Whatever they're going to try to do, I don't like it. He's a rich man, and he can afford the best money that probably money can buy, the best attorneys.
Why should he even have to stand trial?
He shouldn't have to.
On an alleged incident.
Yep.
When you had no police report from a police officer.
No.
That was standing there.
No.
Of this alleged assault. Now, I'm confused. How do you assault a 66-year-old handicapped usher?
You know,
at a Super Bowl.
You don't.
This is how I'm accused. I'm confused by that.
Don't be confused.
You know, it's like I look at the late Joel McKnight, former running back from USC, New York Jets.
Yeah.
He was shot a couple years ago to death in New Orleans.
Yeah.
In this road rage incident by a Caucasian passenger, driver in another car.
Yeah.
They get into a yelling match. And they come back and they said McKnight had traces of marijuana in his system at the time of his death. Okay, we know that marijuana is legal in many states.
Yep.
But he didn't pull the trigger.
No.
Okay? It wasn't a police officer.
No.
He was shot by another driver, a white driver, who said that McKnight cut him off.
Yeah.
Now, as a black man, he gets cut off, he loses his life.
Yeah.
Okay? And this white man is still free today. I don't even know if he's been indicted still.
Well,
But we see Bennett with an alleged assault on a handicapped person.
Yeah.
And this alleged assault was that he bumped into the person.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think this person's ever been to New York City. Okay? Because everybody gets assaulted on the sidewalk all day long in New York City.
You get bumped
Just
all the
bumping
time.
into people.
Yeah.
So, how did she know who Bennett was?
Yep.
That's my point. How did she know who he was? How did this officer let him get away if he's committed an assault against a handicapped person?
That's a very good point.
That right there gets me more than anything else.
Yeah.
I got an officer who is witnessing the incident, who does not hold the man, who does not put him in custody, but 2 years later, he's indicted by a grand jury.
Well, see, and that's very powerful information. A lot of people got to also know that, we love sports and we love all that stuff, but for a lot of African Americans going to the game, sometimes you're just going to be targeted because too many people shut up about it. And I'm embarrassed by some of my sycophants Black American sportscasters that don't even say what will keep their kids safe. Part of building this wall is about building prisons along the wall. It's not about keeping people out. It's about locking people up. You can Google that if you want to read more. But I just got to bring up this point. We'll touch on a few sports, Big C. For all of the athletes that I've known over the years, black and white, I'm very proud of some of my white brethren who know this is true because they've read the Kerner report. And I just hope that we could keep women safe, people of color safe, even mainstream. But you don't have the same, it's ostracized as much. But I'm very proud of my white brethren who know that what we're saying is true, and we got to stop this discrimination. So whatever happened with Bennett down in Texas, I just think it's a timing that doesn't feel right in my gut, the same way the Rodney King situation didn't feel right. And I hope it gets lawyered up the way Trump is. But there are a lot of people of color that don't have several $1 million in the bank. And when someone brings a law down on them, they spend a lot of time behind bars because they don't know how to ask for a speedy trial in the way of time. And a jury can't pull you together. They don't have enough time. They don't. I mean, if the charges are trumped up. I'm just saying this is disturbing to me because I talk to a lot of intelligent people and they're interested in more than just a score. But Big C, I do want to say that sports is a billion-dollar industry, and boys and girls sports is the foundation to this billion-dollar industry. And for every athletic and sporting event, we need athletic and event insurance. We work with Ben and Mark. They've been around half a century. They work with Big C Sports. Whether you're a pro team, a collegiate team, a high school team, or even your mom and pop soccer leagues, when you reach out to them, let them know that Big C sent you at 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. So again, we love the sports business, but I refuse, Big C, to be a knucklehead and a sycophant and a person who's just ignorant and not well read. And I hope that the women going through whatever garbage be emboldened. Just be as strong as Rosa Parks. And everybody who has a daughter or a mother or a sister, we got to keep pushing that same message. I want to just mention that in basketball, Big C, University of Louisville, they hired Chris Mack today as a head coach. I think he got 7 years, $4 million a season, leaving Xavier after 11 seasons. I mean, Xavier's been a solid program, nowhere near the marquee level that Louisville has been. I think that's a good hire, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, it's a solid hire, Charlton, and a great raise for this man.
Yeah.
That's the number one draw when you look at this. Louisville has been a solid foundation on the basketball landscape since the days of Denny Crum, a former John Wooden assistant at UCLA, and won 2 national titles.
Yeah.
Wally was in Louisville. Rick Pitino came in and won a title, but that's been stripped by the NCAA amongst all the allegations that have been flying around the university.
Yeah.
And he's an alumnus of the university, so I think that the university wanted to reach out to somebody had been there during quieter times at the university to bring this back into fold.
Yeah.
But, this is a program that's going to have to go through some adjustments. There's going to be a lot of NCAA sanctions. You know, and we always talk about how can the players not be compensated.
Yeah.
You bring this coach in from Xavier, you know, he got at least a $2 million increase in salary.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Minimum.
Yeah.
But the players still receive nothing. And wasn't that the whole scandal at Louisville? Over money?
Over money.
Over bringing in adult entertainers?
Yeah.
The White House can do. You know, that's no problem.
They were trying to be like Trump. They thought it was locker room behavior, Big Z. That's what they
Trump
thought.
was doing it before president. They said, well, we heard that this was going on at Trump Tower, so we're doing the same thing at the dorm.
At Louisville, yep.
And so then all of a sudden there's an alleged payment to a player.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden you give a coach that you bring in that was at another program. He hasn't developed the players at Louisville, but it's worth a $2 million raise.
Yeah.
But still, no compensation for players.
And that's part of the thing. It's always a problem when you want to pay the players, especially when many of them are African American. And I just got to bring this up one more time because I was just talking to some athletes. One guy that I know plays for the 49ers, and he's a black kid out of the South and down there from Louisiana region. And we were talking about, you know, people don't think about this. The 49ers headquarters is near Silicon Valley, which is not as diverse as it could be. So even multi-million-dollar athletes, just think about what I'm going to say. Multi-million-dollar athletes, the one that are African-American, don't think they don't get the same type of police enmity because when they don't have a uniform on, when they're driving a $100,000 car, just like many people in Silicon Valley, one of the wealthiest regions in the United States, they're getting treated like, how'd you get this car? I mean, before you can ask him what he does for a living, or you pull up on his license plate, a lot of guys don't register a car in their own name. The smart ones put it in a trust, so you can't track them where they live. But they still got to deal with some of that. Even if they're driving a Ferrari, where'd you get this car? What are you doing in this neighborhood? I play for the 49ers. Oh, well, like driver's license registration. And then they get a different behavior. And I know that never gets on the news. So when Colin Kaepernick says, we got to stop this behavior toward people of color, people say, you're not American. Get the hell out of the country. Nothing happens to me when I'm driving my car down in Silicon Valley or in certain parts of the city. There's been several other players for the 49ers that have had accusations of some wrongdoing. And we know some of them arrested or cut from the team, just like Boykin up in Seattle. I'm not defending anything if you're doing wrong. But we know the story of Mara, the New York Giants owner, who hid his own player for beating up his wife 20 times. He just happened to be a white guy. And then Boykin gets accused of one thing, and he's gone from the Seattle Seahawks. And you don't think that Colin Kaepernick knew what he was talking about? And now I hear today that Blaine Gabbert gets hired by somebody, gets a job with a professional football team.
Tennessee Titans signed him.
Down in the South, the good old boy Deep South. They hired him, and he never took a stand for anyone coming under brutality or criminal justice or some of the ills affecting our society.
And he hasn't won 10 games as an NFL starter in 7 years.
Hasn't won, but he's got a job, okay? And so when people and I still hear knuckleheads today saying the Colin Kaepernick thing, do you think the NFL is going to force black Americans to stop talking about what's important for their kids? Do you think that the NFL is going to stop black Americans from trying to take a knee because they're trying to bring attention to helping their kids?
About this. Are the kids down at Marjorie Stoneman High School and at March this last weekend in all the major cities in America, are they anti-American?
Wow.
Because they're marching against gun violence? Is anyone saying that these kids are anti-American because they don't want to be shot? They want to feel safe in school. Is anyone saying, because these kids are saying there's a social injustice on how they're treated,
yep,
that they're anti-American?
No one says that.
Did they take a stance against the flag? Did they take a stance against the police department? Did they take a stance against the politicians? Are they anti-American? No one has raised that issue since these children from Marjorie Stoneman and the other high schools across the country, and they're going to have another march in a week or two coming up.
Wow.
Are they anti-American for taking the stance that they are against the NRA and alleged right that's in the Constitution. Does that make them anti-American? Everyone take a step back and look at that.
Wow.
Because white kids are saying we have an injustice in America,
Yep.
and it's led by guns. Does that make them anti-American? Look at the Colin Kaepernick scenario.
Yeah.
Isn't it kind of similar?
Yep.
He's saying that blacks are dying at an excessive rate
Yeah.
due to the hands of guns. That's what he's saying.
Yep.
And now these white kids are saying the same thing. And I wonder who is the first person, especially on Fox News or any other outlet, is going to say that they're anti-American.
Nobody's going to say that because the skin complexion works. I got to bring it up. And I love people who can make mistakes because we all do. Nobody lives in a glass house except for some of you good old boys down south. You guys have some glass houses, some really nice places down there by, with the Elvis Presley mansion, all those places. You guys live, they live big down south, Big C. I'm not jealous at all. But I got to bring up something. I look at what happened with people still bringing up the fact that Gabbert gets another job for some reason for a Southern team of all places, doesn't have a winning record. And they were saying that John Gruden was saying, well, about Kaepernick, he couldn't beat out Gabbert. He lost his job to Gabbert, which doesn't make any sense at all because 16 touchdowns, 4
was coming
interceptions.
back off of ankle and shoulder surgery.
Yeah, but that's not supposed to matter for African
He had a
Americans.
chance to regain full strength, but as soon as he got healthy enough to play, I think Gabbert went to the bench or something like that.
Yeah, yep.
And he threw 18 touchdowns and 4 interceptions after that point.
Yeah.
And I think Gabbert may have thrown 4 or 5 touchdowns on the season.
Yeah, yeah. And those are just numbers. But today's news, and again, I'm for everybody having a fair opportunity. But I look at Boykin getting released from the Seattle Seahawks. And again, I wasn't there, so I don't know.
Well, you talk about Boykin, but look at Johnny Manziel, where the NFL is entertaining him right now.
Yep, I was just going to bring that up.
Scouts are going looking at his workouts, and I believe Johnny Manziel was convicted of domestic violence.
Sure was.
Down in Texas.
Yep.
He busted the eardrum of a former girlfriend with a punch.
Yep.
And I know the Browns let him go, and he was out of the league.
Yeah.
But now they're entertaining bringing him back in. Now, I think that's the same type of scenario that Vince Young, former Tennessee Titan quarterback, was in when he was seen on tape getting into a fight at an adult entertainment club.
Yeah.
And so that got him cut.
Yep.
So it's amazing how you welcome some back in and you ostracize the ones that are good.
That's a very good point, Big C, because all those things matter. And the only show is going to bring it up is Big C Sports, because a lot of people are ignorant or shaking in their boots, or they can't wait to see who's going to win the game. But I'm an advocate for helping everybody see, just Google what we say. It's just Google it. I mean, that's for every woman, every person of color, even my Caucasian brethren, the decent ones, not the knuckleheads. Just Google it because it keeps people safe. I just want to touch on another thing that helps people. You look at the NCAA, and we have, March Madness Final Four. And you brought up a very good point earlier, I think it was yesterday, Big C, how a lot of the women, they complete school, they go on to have, a pretty decent life, even though they still deal with pay inequality. But for UConn to get revenge over South Carolina, and then Notre Dame to get past Oregon, they're in the Final Four, and you have Mississippi State, and you have Louisville in the Final Four. Now, we know the scandal that the Louisville men's program has come under, but it hasn't stopped the women's program from advancing to the Final Four, and that's going to be in Columbus, Ohio, starting April 1st. So just give me your thoughts again. I think UConn, for anyone to beat UConn, they're going to have to play in the men's bracket, Big C. I think they might beat the men if you think about how well they play, Big C. So UConn obviously is going to be the favorite unless Notre Dame could knock them off, or Mississippi State or Louisville. You see any chinks in their armor? Last year they got maybe a little bit too ahead of themselves when they lost to South Carolina, but now they avenge it with a blowout win. Big C, your thoughts?
Well, you look at where UConn is, Chuck. They're undefeated. I believe they're like 35-0 right now.
Yeah, they're rolling, yeah.
This is a team that's hot. You also got to look at Coach Auriemma.
Yeah.
This is his 19th trip to the Final Four.
Wow.
As a head coach at UConn.
Wow.
The most in college basketball history, men or women.
Wow.
19 trips into the Final Four. So this is perfection personified, what this program represents.
Yeah.
And these young ladies, they saw the pitfall last year when they lost to South Carolina, as you said, may have gotten a little bit ahead of themselves.
Yeah.
That is nothing that's going to bother them this year, Charlton. They are looking at a team on a mission. They're a juggernaut right now.
Yeah.
And so the only thing that's slowing them down is they're waiting on the official to toss the ball up in the air for the tip-off.
Yeah.
And at that point, it's all over. Katie ball the door.
Yeah, that's always funny. So I applaud the women. I know they don't get as much exposure and publicity as men's basketball will get. And even Coach Auriemma, you look at him and you look at Krzyzewski and Self and a lot of the coaches on the men's side that are all, great coaches. They've done a fabulous job over the years having consistent programs. And so I wish them nothing but the best. And on the other side of the spectrum, Big C, in the men's bracket, we have Loyola of Chicago. They're playing Michigan. It's so great for the Midwest to have two teams that they can really galvanize around. And then you have Villanova and you have Kansas. No matter who you look at, this will be Villanova's second trip in the last 3 years to the Final Four. But programs like Kansas and also Duke are considered, maybe better programs historically. But Villanova's, they've done their thing. But I'm really impressed with the boys from Kansas. Dorothy Wizard of Oz, I don't know if they're going to find the Wizard of Oz this time. But Kansas looks like, you can say it about anybody, but they really look like after knocking off Duke, they cannot afford to have a letdown because Villanova, Big C, they're as consistent as a cold bucket of moonshine, Big C. Your thoughts?
Well, Villanova is the last number one seed left in the term, but you also got to look. Kansas was the number 2 seed.
Yeah.
So, they were easily could have been a number one bracketed seed, Charlton. So,
yeah.
What Coach Wright has done at Villanova is nothing less than phenomenal. His second Final Four in 3 years, Charlton. And he has a team that's senior-led by the guard position. So this is a team that's poised, but Kansas, for some reason, keeps finding great players to come out to the Midwest from inner cities.
It's beautiful back there.
And they get a chance to relax. So you think about some of the lifestyles in these inner cities in America. It's very rough for these young men.
Yeah.
So for them to go to a place where they can concentrate on education and athletics, Charlton, it's a great relaxer mind-wise to be in Kansas.
Yeah.
Plus a program that consistently gets into the Final Four.
Yeah.
This is their 14th Final Four appearance in the university's history.
Yeah.
So they're accustomed to being there. Bill Self's been there a couple of times since being there in Kansas.
Yeah.
So this is not new territory for him. That's going to be a great game between Villanova and Kansas.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. We know we love this atmosphere, but I also just want to be an advocate for the young men and women. I know that we hear these things that go on, and I just want for everyone, especially when I hear the NFL, that hides a guy who beats his wife in Brown for the Giants, and then I think it was it Ray Rice that still couldn't get a job. And what he did was horrible to his wife. They did go through some treatment, and I guess whatever they did to work on that, I don't know the whole story. But I know they made him go through a lot, and he still couldn't find work. And then I hear Manziel, they're acting like, let's fly Manziel around. I wonder if that woman has if it was an eye socket or eardrum, whatever it was that he broke on that woman. I don't know where she is. And no one ever asked him about that incident. They're acting as if it's okay. And he's saying, if I can't make it in the NFL, then I'll see if I can make it in Canada. I'll see if I can make it someplace. And there's never any pushback on him getting that job. And, other men get just an accusation and they get kicked off a team. Big C, do you think that is, it is what it is. I just hope that people keep that in mind when other players are accused of something. You do have a right to be presumed innocent, and that's always important. Big C, I do want to touch on a few things before we close. I know there was a baseball game. I think it was played in Montreal, and last night, and they had this feeling that we talk about, oh, Canada, our home and native land. I really would love to see baseball, Major League Baseball, approach having another team in Canada alongside the Toronto Blue Jays. And I thought the Expos had a great stadium. They had a great following. For money reasons, they ended up coming to the United States and becoming the Washington Nationals. You see any hope or chance of baseball in Canada being embraced from the United States again? Big C, your thoughts?
Well, Charlton, you think about the size and the beauty of a couple cities up there. You think about Vancouver. They have a dome stadium where they held the Winter Olympics several years ago in Vancouver, and the Summer Olympics were once held in Montreal.
Yeah.
There at that stadium. But, the thing with Vancouver, I think Seattle would probably cry intimate domain. But we see Major League teams being in the same city. So I don't think that should affect that. But Montreal, I think with the language barrier, as much as a problem with anything is that, it's French language there in Quebec.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if it was totally embraced, but, the Expos had some tremendous teams and some tremendous players. I remember Andre Dawson, Joe Carter playing up there.
Yeah.
And so this outstanding Tim Raines playing there in Montreal. So Gary Carter, played there as catcher.
Yeah.
They had some outstanding players.
Yeah.
And so when they left and went to Washington to become the Nationals, this is the thing we've talked about, organizations moving.
Yeah.
The Rams left Los Angeles, went to St. Louis, now they're back in Los Angeles.
Yep.
The Raiders left Oakland, went to Los Angeles, now they're back in Oakland, now they're going to Las Vegas.
Yeah.
OKC was in Seattle, now they're in OKC. This movement, Sacramento, where you are, they were in Kansas City at one point.
Yeah. Yeah.
This movement and leaving cities void. When we look around at some of the major league ballparks, and you tell me that the attendance is better than what they had in Montreal, look at Miami with the Marlins.
Empty.
It's empty all the time.
Yeah.
It's a brand new stadium.
Yeah.
Always empty. And I think now that since the Expos have left, they finished doming off that stadium, so it has a roof over it where they never had the roof over it when the Expos played.
Yeah.
So now there's always a perfect environment in that stadium to play. So, it's never too cold, never too hot.
Yeah.
No wind, no rain.
Yeah.
So, at least you look at it from that perspective. Go around and look at some of the lower attendance leagues, teams in the major leagues.
Yeah.
And say, was Major League Baseball better off when they were in Montreal with the Expos than what they are in some of these stadiums where you have 6,000 to 10,000 people?
Yeah.
I know there's always been talk about the A's leaving Oakland, and it's sad to see that potentially all the teams could be out of there after the long lineage that they've had there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But who knows? It might be the Montreal A's.
Isn't that something? I think if you not going to be supported by the market, there was a time when the A's were a top draw. They won a couple of World Series, back in the 70s, and they had great teams, and then they lost that last World Series to the Dodgers back in '88 when Gibson had that walk-off. But it's a great area, the East Bay in the Bay Area, great place for sports, but to see the Raiders being, going out, just leaving, up and leaving, and then there's always talk that the A's may get a stadium built downtown by Jack London Square. Who knows if that's going to happen? It always takes money, but no matter where you go, where can you go to a metropolitan area where you have 7 million people like you have in the Bay Area that have the money to support a franchise as long as you have the amenities there and you have a good team that wins? I hope to see a team go to Canada. I'd hate to see the A's go, but we know that's what happens in the world of sports. Big C, back in the day, there was a man by the name of Drew Blandini Brown. He was known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, with all you've got to use, how can you lose? Rumble, young men, rumble. Big C, what are you looking forward to in the sports universe?
Well, Charlton, I think the greatest thing that has happened in sports happened last night with the Las Vegas Golden Knights. The first inaugural team in major sports history to make the playoffs.
Wow.
The first time, football, basketball, baseball, everything, the Las Vegas Golden Knights in their inaugural season have made the NHL playoffs. Charlton, this is a team that can threaten for Lord Stanley's Cup.
Wow.
You think about that, how much that would shake up the NHL if the Las Vegas Knights are in the finals.
Well, Big C, it's always great to hear guys down in the desert skating on ice. Sometimes they mean that for the Strip. But speaking of the Strip, every Monday through Friday at 5 and 6 p.m. worldwide, follow Big C Sports on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to Big C and them good old boys down south. As we always tell you, there's never, ever any excuse for domestic violence. If you know any man or woman going through that garbage, please call 911, because no man or woman should ever have to go through that garbage all on their own. And as we always tell you on every Big C Sports show, we thank you, we appreciate you, and we hope that you have a super fantastic day.